we'll do some questions at the end, okay? Once we're accelerating, what I tend to do when we accelerate, because we should be accelerating on our glides here, between thermals, unless, like we had at the end of the day, where we're flying downwind and we've got grey skies and it's pretty calm, then maybe we're gliding at trim speed to maximize our glide. But if the sun is out, the dusties are there in front of us, the cumulus are there in front of us, we've got gliders in front of us climbing, we can see down track that people are climbing, we should be gliding faster. Here, the thermals yesterday were what? Some of the good ones were like 5 meter, but they were probably averaging 2 to 3 meters. And normal practice on a 2-3 meter, sorry, I'm working in meters, like, do the conversion.
That works.
Do the math. As soon as we're flying in 3 meter day, on a 3 meter day, most of our glides, if you want to be efficient, speed to fly, we should be flying at full speed, okay, between our glides. And if not full speed, you should be flying at 3/4 speed, okay? It's a nice safety margin. So when we're flying at speed, again, I've got control on the bees, I've got tension, okay? I'll only ever release all my tension in my bees if I feel that the air is dead in front of me. The wing settles down, we get that dead air feeling, let it go, okay? But as soon as we get a little bit of movement, a bit of chop, then I'll come back and put pressure on the bees. Let's say I'm just flying at full speed, the beautiful thing with the 2-liners now, and to some extent with the 3-liners with the ACR system, is I can bring the glider back to trim speed. I can leave my foot locked on the speed bar, but I can come right back to trim speed with my B risers. And I will do that quite often if I'm unsure. Maybe I've gone through a thermal. I'll keep a thermal that I don't really want. It's not very strong. I hit the thermal. I'll S through my way through the thermal. And by doing that, I'll be slowing the glider on the Bs. I'll keep my foot on the speed bar and I'll S my way. I'll control any movements of the wing with my pitch on the Bs. And if I don't hit the core that I want, I'll move on. And as I exit the thermal, I'll keep pressure on the Bs for sure as I exit, because that's where the turbulence often is. And once I'm free again, and I'm in normal sinking air, I'll let the glider go. And I'll only let it go if the air feels good. If it doesn't, I'll hold it back again, okay? So we've got complete speed and angle attack control on our B risers, which means we can move through the sky faster and more efficiently, and with better control, better safety control. If I'm at full speed and the glider surges in front of me, I'll pull the Bs to stop it. And if that input is not enough, I'll come off my leg. Fastest knee in the west, boom. Okay, so the combination of B input and your leg input can really shock the glider to stop it from collapsing, okay? So I wanted to practice more, really working the Bs almost like they're brakes, especially when we're accelerating. If you're at trim speed, obviously you can't use the same inputs because you can potentially stall the wing on the Bs, so you have to be aware of that and conscious of that. But it's very difficult. You've got to work very hard to stall a wing from over inputting the Bs whilst we're accelerating, okay? For those of you flying 3-liners with the ACR system, where the Bs and Cs are connected, then I want you to concentrate when you fly them of not just inputting the C riser, because what that does, it breaks the profile, it creates camber. And camber in profiles make wings more pitch unstable, okay? So what you want to do is really have your hands far forwards on those little neoprene bits, the Ozone wings. I'm not sure what other manufacturers use, but the aim is to sort of input the B. And when you input the B, the C will come with it. And the reason why we do that is because we want to keep the very nose, the leading edge, pressurized and open. So inputting the B just creates almost the same effect as a 2-liner. Not quite as direct, not quite as efficient, but you can use the same ideas whilst flying up those 3-liners, accelerating and using, but concentrate on inputting the B riser rather than just pulling the C riser, okay? That's the most effective way. So if we do take a collapse, like I said, we want to come off the bar and then use whatever you've got in your hand. If you've got a B riser in your hand, flying a 2-liner, then input the Bs. And that can open side collapses, it can open frontals without coming off the brakes. Of course, once you get control of the wing, come off the Bs, back on the brakes, settle down, and then go again. Like a goldfish, just go again, okay? Because there's no point in worrying about the air that's just behind you, okay? It's all better in front of you. So I think the important thing to remember there is just, if you need to input whatever is in your hand at the time, okay? Obviously with these wings, we don't want to be flying accelerated and flying on the brakes, okay? That is really bad practice. Applying brakes whilst accelerated, again, it creates camber in the profile, and you can lose the wing it makes the wing way more susceptible to frontals, deflations and the like, okay? So do not, if you ever have a tendency to use the brakes whilst flying accelerated, have a word with yourself, okay? Because that's a bad habit that you have to identify and absolutely eradicate and stop from your flying, okay? These, on the other hand, are way more effective for that. Now, I saw a couple of people take, I don't know if you're here, there's a guy on a red Photon lead. The first big pulse that came out was right at the top, flying really well, climbed up to the top, took a 50% collapse, and the wingtip ended up with a small cravat. And it took good, who was that? Right, okay, so you dealt with the collapse really, really well. That was all fine, and then the tip collapse. Now, in the old days, we used to fish around for the stabilo line and pull the stabilo line to clear cravats. Cravats are a reality in all modern wings. As we've reduced the amount of lines, the chances of the wingtip coming in and collapsing in a way so it gets trapped around a line has increased significantly. I don't know about significantly, but it seems we're getting less massive unload collapses, but we end up with these annoying cravats, okay? And the way to deal with cravats is, for me, the fishing around on the lines like you did, looking for big ears and the like, that's our last resort. That's what we do with a really stubborn one that just will not exit. The way to control a cravat, obviously we go through the normal process of inputting and controlling the collapse. And if we do have a cravat and we're looking at the wing, it's really important that that's something when I'm flying, my focus is the leading edge. I will glance at my surroundings, I will glance at everyone else, but my focus is the leading edge, because every collapse we take, I want to see. I want to see every collapse that I took. I took a collapse yesterday, just a 50-60%er, and I inputted it and it just stopped, and I didn't even have to come off the speed bar. I did everything without even coming off the speed bar, and luckily that one didn't cravat. But if we do get a cravat, we're looking at it, we use opposite weight shift and opposite brake to maintain course, as usual. And then the aim is to unload the cravatted side, so get the load off of it. If it starts to turn and dig in, you can't really do a great deal. You need to really stop the turn, stop with brake and opposite weight shift. And once this tip is sort of unloaded, that's when we want a big input. And I mean, doing that does nothing. Doing that does nothing. So we take a wrap and we input. And the aim is to empty the air. We just want to take the wing to a point where it's just about to spin, and then we let it fly again, okay? And what that does is it empties the air out of the wing, and it allows the tip or whatever's trapped on a line just to free itself, okay? So in that instance yesterday, just taking a wrap and doing one input would have probably done the job way more effectively and more efficiently, okay? If you do a big input and nothing happens, take another wrap and do another one and do it bigger, and just really get the glider so it's starting to spin, and then let it fly. Okay, these are all skills that you should be learning and training with on SIV. If you take one of the Photons, for example, and you do enough stalls, you will end up with cravats. Okay, and cravat clearing and training is probably my strongest recommendation for flying this new generation type of wing, because the cravats aren't dangerous and you're going to spiral into the ground, but you have to be able to clear them efficiently. I once watched a friend of mine who was winning a task in a World Cup, and he ended up in a very similar situation to you yesterday, and he lost the task because he didn't have that skill in his toolbox just to clear the very tip cravat. Okay, so from a cross-country performance perspective, you can really up your game by having a good cravat clearance policy. If you've gone through this process of inputting hard, decently hard, to really try and clear the air from the wing, and it's still cravated, that's when I suggest you go through the process of finding a stabilo line, or if you don't have a stabilo, just pulling a big ear, try and release tension from that line in the tip. Okay, but that's the last resort, only for the really stubborn ones. Okay, so I just recommend, when you get your opportunity this year to practice SIV, is we work on stall, we work on parachutal stalls, and in that process you will get cravats that you can train to get rid of. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.